The storm rolled across the prairie like a living beast, swallowing the horizon in black clouds and rattling the ground with thunder. Rain whipped against the old wooden schoolhouse, slamming at the windows, while inside a single lamp glowed against the encroaching dark. There she sat, Evelyn Hart, a woman of 32 years, a teacher by trade but a soul carved by solitude. She had chosen this lonely prairie town in hopes of peace after the heartbreaks of the city, but peace had turned quickly into emptiness. She taught children their letters by day, but by night her heart whispered to the silence, aching for someone who might see her, protect her, love her. On that night, as the wind howled like wolves and the thunder cracked open the heavens, fate came riding toward her in the shape of a giant cowboy, a man whose presence would shake the walls of her small world forever. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories where broken people find healing together, then pause for a moment like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth for more emotional stories that touch the soul. His name was Cole Maddox, a towering figure of 40, broad as the barn doors he worked beneath and weathered by years under the unforgiving sun. He had lived a life of hard ranch labor, endless cattle drives, and nights haunted by war scars no one ever asked him about. Folks in town called him the Giant, both for his size and the way people instinctively stepped aside when he passed. But behind his steely blue eyes lived a loneliness so deep it rivaled the vast prairies. He had lost his family to sickness long ago, and had never dared to give his heart to anyone again. That night, while most hid from the storm, Cole had seen the flickering lamp in the schoolhouse and felt drawn to it, almost against his will. When he pushed open the door, his massive frame nearly filled the doorway. Evelyn looked up, startled, clutching her shawl around her shoulders, her brown eyes wide with fear and wonder. She was delicate compared to him, a small woman with soft features framed by chestnut hair braided simply down her back. She looked like someone carved from hope and heartbreak all at once, fragile but unyielding. In that first silence, broken only by the pounding storm, something in him stirred, a promise unspoken, fierce and undeniable. The days that followed grew into an unspoken bond. Cole began fixing the broken fences around the schoolyard, mending steps, bringing firewood, his rough hands always busy, his presence steady. Evelyn found herself watching him through the window, her heart conflicted. She had always been cautious with men, for her past carried the weight of betrayal, a man back east who had promised her marriage but left her for another. She had sworn never to be made small by a man again. Yet here was Cole, whose very shadow could eclipse her, and instead of fear she felt seen. Still she struggled. Her loneliness made her crave him, yet her pride made her resist. Nights were the hardest. She would sit at her desk, grading papers by lamplight, pretending not to hear his boots on the porch when he checked to see she was safe. She could feel him even when she did not look, like a storm waiting on the edge of her world, powerful and inevitable. Cole, too, wrestled with his heart. He told himself she deserved better than a broken man like him, a man whose hands had known war and loss. Yet every time she smiled shyly at him when the children laughed, or every time her voice carried warmth through the empty schoolhouse, his resolve cracked. He began to realize that maybe he wasn't just watching over her. Maybe he was aching for her, needing her as much as she needed him. The turning point came one evening when danger crept into their quiet prairie town. A band of drifters, rough men hardened by greed, rode in under cover of night. They sought shelter, drink, and whatever they could take. When they spotted the schoolhouse, they saw not a place of learning but an opportunity. Evelyn was alone that night, waiting for Cole, who had gone to town for supplies. The men cornered her, their laughter harsh against the storm's fading rumble. She stood her ground, trembling but firm, refusing to let them see her fear. But her heart pounded, knowing she was small against their violence. Then came the sound, the heavy thunder of boots, the crash of the door flung open. Cole filled the room like a force of nature, his voice low, growling like the storm itself. "I'm claiming you tonight, little one." His words were not of possession, but of protection, of a vow that no harm would ever touch her so long as he lived. The drifters faltered at his towering presence, and when his fists met the first man's jaw, the rest scattered into the storm, their courage no match for his fury. When the silence returned, Evelyn collapsed into his arms, tears streaming down her cheeks. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight of his strength not as something to fear, but as a shelter she had long been denied. Cole held her as though she were the only thing left in the world worth saving. From that night on, their bond deepened. He moved closer into her life, repairing her world piece by piece. She, in turn, softened the hardness in him, teaching him that even the strongest man needs gentleness, and even the loneliest heart deserves love. Together they forged a new story, not of dominance or fragility, but of balance, her quiet strength meeting his unshakable power. The prairie winds still howled, storms still came, but within the little schoolhouse and the man's weathered ranch, something unbreakable was built. Evelyn was no longer the lonely teacher, and Cole was no longer the giant haunted by emptiness. Together, they had found what neither thought they would again, a home in each other's hearts. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of the power of love to heal even the loneliest souls, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth for more emotional stories that will move your heart. And before we close, here's a special request. Comment below with the words "Love claims us all" to remind yourself and others that no matter how broken or alone we feel, love has a way of finding us when we least expect it.